What is up, everybody? My name is Chu, or on Twitter or YouTube, known as Father Dynasty. And I'm here to talk 3 Dynasty trades involving Deshaun Watson. And these are pulled from the Dynasty Daddy database. I'm not affiliated at all, but I consider it a great tool, great thing to have that they offer on there. So please, go ahead and check that out. And again, all 3 of these were plucked from there, and I will explain each of the leagues and settings and all that, so you can kind of get a handle on what I was looking at here. So, Deshaun Watson, after week 9, that would have been his 4th full start, as it was in week 7. He only had 5 attempts and then left with that shoulder injury. But if we're including that 5th start, it's 14.7 points per game on the year. That's about in range with Matthew Stafford at 14.8. In 3 of those weeks, Deshaun Watson did finish in the top 10. And he was actually QB8 in week 9. Keep Trade Cut, just for reference, has him at the QB19 in Dynasty. And that is 1 behind Sam Howell at 18 and 1 in front of Jordan Love at 20. At least in reference to my Dynasty rankings, I have him at QB16. And you can check those out over at goingfor2.com. So the first deal we're looking at is a 12-team start 10 PPR half-point tight end premium. We've got simple and clean Deshaun Watson for a 2024 first and a 2025 third. And again, just assuming that all of these are mid-round picks, unless indicated otherwise. This is a tough one because, again, as I mentioned, he has had a couple of top 10 finishes thus far in the season. He has only had 5 starts, really 4 full starts on the season, of course, with his shoulder injury, which seemed a bit mysterious. I know that initially I think it was thought of to be a concussion that took him out of the game in week 7, and then it was indicated that it was shoulder injury, seemingly, back healthy and ready to rock in that week 9 game that they had. But for me, again, I mentioned I have him as the QB16 in Dynasty. There's certainly upside to Deshaun Watson. I know everyone considers what he looked like, certainly towards the tail end of his time in Houston. I don't know if we're going to see that on a consistent basis necessarily. But again, as he's shown this season, he can be a quality quarterback. But I feel like for me, and I think for a lot of people in Dynasty, there maybe is a depression in his value, whether it be something that's tangible or not. So if I consider the liquidity of a 2024 first rounder, even if it's mid, I'd rather have that in that 2025 third, just if down the road, if Deshaun Watson is not playing that well, I would certainly have a tougher time moving him again for this same deal for a first and a third. And again, if he does play well and he ends up exceeding the value of that first and the third, I'm still left with a first and a third. I could take comfort in that. I can, move on from that, and whether it's being able to take a quarterback with that first in 2024, whether it's pairing it moving up, whether it's moving back to 2025, simply just the flexibility that I have with that pick. And in most, if not all leagues, again, I'd have more flexibility with that than I would Deshaun Watson based on some conversations I've had. So jumping over to deal number 2, this is a 10-team start 9 half-point PPR, no tight end premium. This one's a little bit bigger. So we've got Kyren Williams, Garrett Wilson, Deshaun Watson, 2025 first, 2024 second, and a 2024 third. All that for Matthew Stafford, James Conner, and Tyreek Hill. Now, leading into week 10, I think there's a bit of appeal for some of those guys as, for the last couple of weeks we've been without James Conner. He's been on the IR. I know he's expected to, he may even be back for week 10, or I guess at worst week 11. So I think this Arizona team will look a bit different if you're getting Kyler Murray and James Conner back. But if I'm looking at the other side of the deal, the Kyren Williams, Garrett Wilson, Deshaun Watson, first, second, and third, I'm leaning that side. I can certainly understand if you are competing right now this year and you're trying to get the upside, the weekly upside that is Tyreek Hill, chasing that 2,000 receiving yard season, which at this point he's on pace to break it. I can understand why you'd want that. James Conner, again, at this point in the season, if he's back and healthy and producing in his James Conner ways, I think that would be worthwhile. Matthew Stafford at this point, as of this recording, the Rams did sign Carson Wentz. So I don't know if that was likely. I assume that was indicative of their lack of confidence in Matthew Stafford coming back, and maybe he is put on the IR, but does come back after a couple of weeks. Maybe they think he's not going to come back this season. Not too sure. But overall, I think you're basically looking at the Tyreek Hill portion of that side and seeing what you think about that versus the other side. And with Kyren Williams, do we believe that he's going to step back in and reclaim the role that he had? Is at least a portion of his production a function of the offense and system that he's in? I don't know. I'm willing to roll those dice if it means I get Garrett Wilson, who has, again, struggled with Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. I'm looking forward to when he will have a better quarterback doing that. Deshaun Watson, again, he's had good showings. And at least in this package, if I'm getting all of that, if I'm getting the first, the second, and the third, I'm taking that side over the Matthew Stafford, James Conner, Tyreek Hill. Again, I see the allure of getting Tyreek Hill, no doubt in my mind, but if I'm able to get the other side, I feel like there's a lot more I can do with it. You are still getting some production, but you also are still getting some just overall value with the first and the Garrett Wilson, so I'm going to take that side. So jumping over to deal number 3, the final deal of this trio. 12-team, start 10, half PPR, half tight end premium. So this one a little bit shorter than the last one. So we've got Deshaun Watson and Rashad Bateman for Puka Nacua, Jacoby Brissett, and a 2025 second. So I really battled back and forth with this one. I could certainly see if you are in need of a quarterback, if you're moving that to get a Deshaun Watson and the throw-in of Rashad Bateman in the hopes he becomes what we thought he was going to coming out of college. At this point, I don't know that he is, and very disappointing because I still have my hopes. I do have him in a couple of dynasty leagues, but it's more so because I can't really move him and get much. And at this point, I'm just going to hope he catches on and has a couple year late of a breakout, but not likely at this point. And looking at what Puka Nacua has done thus far, again, this was before Cooper Kupp was back healthy. Once Cooper Kupp came back healthy, now Matthew Stafford's out for I don't know how long, but now you have Carson Wentz coming in. Again, there's going to be that connection they have to establish, but Puka, what he has done in his rookie season, independent of draft capital, I know he's the 5th rounder, but even independent of that, is unbelievable. And I think despite this being super flex, I am going to go the Puka Nacua side in most, if not all cases. Again, if it's really quarterback is what I'm looking for, I can understand going for the Deshaun Watson side, but being able to get Puka, again, he's had a down week or two, certainly compared to what he's done the first couple of weeks. So I think, if anything, this is the time to get Puka. And I think in terms of the name value of what Puka carries, that's someone who I'd want to hold on to and see what happens through the rest of the season. Next year, is Stafford healthy? Is he still there? Who is the quarterback? What do the other weapons look like? How is Cooper Kupp doing? A lot of mystery there. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I think getting a young stud receiver in Puka Nacua and what he's been able to do is what I want on my team. Well, thank you guys for stopping by and checking out these 3 Deshaun Watson trades in Dynasty. If you would, go ahead and like, subscribe, and throw something down in the comments. What do you think of each of these deals? Are there any deals that you're either considering or maybe had already done related to Deshaun Watson? And love to hear your thoughts on those, and would love to let you know what I think if you care to hear it. So.